Hello everybody, my name is Fernando Tom Jr. and we're going to be doing a presentation today on the modernization and preservation of endangered cultures, and we're going to be doing a cross comparison between the Navajo and the Tibetan cultures, and we're going to be emphasizing within the medicinal reasons. Okay, let's see if we can get this right. Okay, the outline today we're going to be talking about the similarities between Navajo and Tibetan culture, the overview of the Navajo Nation, the Navajo herbal medicine, Chinese experience, my Chinese experience abroad last year in Central University, and also we're going to be talking about highlighting the Chinese medicine. And we're going to talk about Tibetan medicine, and we're going to get down into the resolutions. So there's some similarities between Navajo and Tibetan culture is that there's a lot of forced assimilation because both cultures recently opened up to the world. Like for example, Tibet, they opened up like in 1950s with the Chinese Revolution becoming part of China, and the Navajo Reservation did recently open up after serving within the World War II. And there's been a cultural identity crisis amongst the youth. A lot of the youth don't know, like they are in the mainstream society, so they don't really know how to decide if they should leave the culture or not, or just forget the culture and just assimilate into the mainstream cultures. For like Navajos, it's gonna be like the American culture, and for the Tibetan people, it's gonna be the Chinese culture. And we come from like similar backgrounds, but not the same like demographic. Oh, just not the same how would you call it? The environment backgrounds, but the same socioeconomic backgrounds. And this is Navajo Nation. It's called Navajo Benahozo. It's located within the U.S., within Arizona, New Mexico, and part of Utah as well. And there's going to be there's over 330,000 Navajos within Arizona. I'm sorry, within the U.S. alone. Half of them, like 47%, live in the Navajo Nation. 26% live in metro cities, and 17% live across the reservation, the U.S., and 10% are like, I don't know what the other 10% is, but yeah, there's 10% living elsewhere. And yeah, this is the Navajo Reservation, and let's see here. It is 17 million acres. Let's see here. Oh yeah, another thing that was an issue too was that there's even though there's 330,000 Navajos altogether, only half of the Navajos can speak, like 117,000. That's really within the older generation, so it's slowly going out. And it's really funny because like within the 50 years, like when they started opening up the reservation to the world, everybody could speak Navajo, like everybody. But now a lot of like my younger family members, they don't speak Navajo at all. And let's see here. And then I'm going to be talking about a brief introduction about my Navajo herbal medicine. It is based upon like a sort of subcategory of Navajo medicine overall, because Navajo medicine is based more on shamanism, with healing and medicine that's been integrated into treating the whole body, both spiritually and mentally. So we use the land and we take care of the land, and we pretty much like what we use is what we give back. And we're taught as a young childhood, like from my grandma, she never went to school in a traditional U.S. setting. She spent all of her life living in our homeland, which is Sasgizi, and this is her, and this is my uncle, my late uncle, and all she learned was like she's a everything that she learned from her family members, from her mom, her grandma, and her relatives. So everything that was based upon was due self knowledge, and she's been teaching us too. I spent most of my childhood with my grandma, and this plant right here is a really good plant too. It's, let's see here what. Oh, how do? Okay, so this plant is it's got a Mormon tea. It's usually used for like a long time ago. They used to drink coffee with it, and it used to be like a caffeine to keep it going. And this little one, it's called the Tibetan dot. And this one is used for like when during the winters, long winters, we used to get like really strong like snowstorms, and a lot of Navajos have animals and sheep, so they usually pick these during the summer and they let them dry out during the summer. During the winters, they were combining with dipping medicine and other medicinal plants, and they would burn it underneath the sheep so they can breathe and they can now be healthy during the winter, so they won't die off or freeze. And yeah, and this is another picture of my grandma. She was picking, this one's another plant of salt, and it's used for picking up plants that are, oh my bad. It's used for treating like the common cough, the common cold, and if you're having diarrhea and stuff, like goes with that. Okay, so my next experience is talking about my Chinese experience abroad in Central University, and that was a really great experience. I got to study abroad in China for a year. We took classes the first semester, all we listened to is Chinese straight out, and the second semester we did an internship inside the Central University Research Lab, but underneath Dr. Kevin Chen. And it was a really good place too, because like I got to travel a lot, I got to learn the language, and like for our internship we got to, it's kind of sad, but like we killed mice for it too, mice for a living, and it was like crazy. Okay, so we're going to talk about Chinese medicine. I had a lot of friends that were within China, or within the Chinese hospitals. They were all medical students. And so then I got to tag along when I had free time, and I got to see a lot of the acupuncture, the fire cupping, the traditional medicines. They could sell it, and then on top of that, like experiencing the hospitals. And I got to personally try everything on this experience. The acupuncture was fun, like the fire cupping was amazing. And the thing that really drew me out was like how China has a long history, and it has a really long history, and it's able to like incorporate that into nowadays. Like they like when we were working in the hospitals, it was more. It's a little bit behind, but other than that, like it's very efficient. Like you go see one doctor and you can literally get everything done within that one day. And yeah, it's very crazy busy, and like there's people everywhere. But when the doctors check you out, they're able to give you like an option between taking Navajo medicine, taking Chinese medicine or taking Western medicine, and you had an option to take both as well. Okay. So we're going to be talking about Tibetan medicine, and for most people that don't know where Tibet is, it's going to be in this part of right here. And it was opened up in 1950s after the Dalai Lama got kicked out into India by the Chinese government. And from there, like they had Tibet and China had a really bad ties with each other for a very long time. Like in the beginning, they told the Chinese government told them like, you're not allowed to do Tibetan medicine. It's like a taboo, and it's like not part of this culture. We're trying to make you more Chinese. Like they were really going emphasizing Chinese. But like after doing this, it caused a lot of backlash, and a lot of people didn't like it. But over the years, it started like it was kind of an off-on thing, and like you get to 1980s, and that's where the Chinese government was like, yeah, we need to really support and celebrate that we have minority groups, and Tibets were one of the minority groups. And they really looked at the Tibetan medicine, those Chinese doctors that were sent in. They did a re-infrastructure because like a long time ago there used to be a caste system. Like only the highest castes were allowed to do medicine. And it has a lot of like ties from the influences from Chinese medicine and Indian Ayurveda medicine before. And like a lot of influences, and it was really neat. And after that, like there was like really funny because like before it was restructuring, they used to have like these different sections in the books that were specifically used for treating like I guess like the devil, the DVDs, like spirits like within the body to take it out of it. So that was really interesting because it's like a lot of similarity to Navajo medicine about treating the whole body overall. But after that, since like Tibetan medicine, it was really brought down and more centralized to a point where it was accessible to everybody. And on top of that too, like the Chinese government was like, oh yeah, we're going to make this global, and like they started selling it to the U.S., Europe, Asia, and Australia. And some interesting parts was that they built these farms that were specific to farming the Tibetan medicine, but some complications happened because like all like these companies were not owned by any Tibetans. They were not run by Tibetan people. They were just run out by like outside companies. And this really had a toll within like the community as a whole because the Tibetan people, they like the people from the beginning, how would I say? The people, the home doctors, they call them foot doctors. They are the ones that go out to the villages and treat people. And they usually go out into the mountains. They usually go get their own herbs. They do all these other stuff for them. But nowadays, since they have like competition with these big industries, they don't have the funding or stuff to like compete with them. And on top of that too was like another issue with the foreign companies is that these aren't Tibetan people. Like they don't really support the culture or anything. They just want to make a quick profit. So this is reacting to a lot of people backlash from the communities, Tibetan communities, saying that you guys are not you don't really care about our plants. Like you're just endangering our plants. And with this, like a lot of the Tibetan medicinal plants are going out of they're going extinct or they're becoming endangered because like they're not properly taking care of them, making sure they were back in life, and like just mass producing them for the world consumption. And okay, so we're gonna get down to the resolution parts, and the first part that we're gonna be talking about is a little place called the Navajo Agriculture Products Industry. It was established in 1970s by the Navajo Nation. And today they have over 72,000 acres of land, and this is a really interesting strategy because it's a Navajo agricultural based farm company, and as you know, it's located within Farmington, New Mexico, and as you can see, like they have these sections, and they're completely different from like the Western culture, agriculture, where it's like based on a square. This one's based in a circle, and when they plant, they base within the circle where they go around and around the whole thing until it fills up. And this is really interesting because it goes back to the Navajo culture as a whole, like traditional teachings, because a long time ago, these crops were based within the circular motion. And this was to represent the universe and how we came to be. And on top of that too, it was more efficient for the water. And on top of that too, during the day, the sun comes up and it goes around. And this was really efficient because it goes over, and like even though the plants were able to not get sun, like when the sun goes up and it goes out throughout the day, you're able to get the plant. Like the suns are still able to get sun all day long, and even during the spring, the winter, because we used to plant in early winter, and we usually harvest until like August or the late fall. So it was really how would you say? It was very efficient and it was very worth the time doing this way. And the reason why I brought up the NAPI was because these are Navajo owned, and on top of that too, like they farm all the necessities for a Navajo person to live. They plant like the stuff that we need, like the potatoes, corn, pinto beans, and wheat, like the traditional foods that we become accustomed to because we were put on reservations, and this is like what we were forced to live on. And on top of that too, like another section of it was built for agriculture, for like to make hay, to make food for the sheep as well. So it was like really agricultural based upon. And the second resolution was to go back to our traditional ways, because to build a Navajo-owned nursery for the Navajo Nation, or for the Navajo medicinal plants based within the Navajo Nation, and this way it creates more jobs and more research opportunities for Navajo scientists to study the medicinal uses for our plants, and revitalize the culture, the language, and to make it spark an interest. And the pictures on the top left is and the top right is based on this program I did in New Zealand inside the summer prior to going to China, and it was owned by this guy named Ron, and he was like a Maori guy, and the Maori people are the indigenous people in New Zealand, and this guy, he goes all the way out to different areas of New Zealand, and he collects the indigenous plants, and he takes them back to his nursery, and he grows them to a specific length, and when the time then he doesn't then he goes back to those locations where he got the plants and he regrows them. And it was really neat because we did this 3-day camp experiences with high school students over there. So we were able to partake within their program, and they were taught, like the Navajo youth, or the Maori youth were taught what the native plants that they come to play outside with, and what their purposes, functions were, and on top of that too, after we took the plants back, as for you can see, he grew these plants, and these were the same plants that we grew. We went to back then. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad at this, but back to the same place that he found them, and we replanted it for him. Oh my gosh, how do you go back? Okay, so there's one more thing that I want to make on this. It was that I think that's pretty much it. Okay, so lastly, I would like to I would have special thanks to the IGP team, Melissa, Lily, and Rebecca for making this all possible for us, and to Paul Donnelly to making this helping me with my research. And on top of that, to have a special thanks to my family for supporting me. And this last picture was the picture of the picture of the Center University when we were hiking. And I think that's pretty much it. Did we get it over with?